Had a challenging week? Well, get ready for something fantastic. We're going amalgam, baby. Welcome to Dear Watchers, an omniversal comic book podcast where we do a deep dive into the multiverse.
We are traveling with you through the stories and the worlds that make up an omniverse of fictional realities we all love. And your watchers on this journey, or I don't know, I didn't come up with something, but those of us who've skirted death recently are me, Guido.
And me, Rob. And special returning guest, it's Ethan from Make Mine Amalgam on his 11th visit at least. Welcome, Ethan.
Hello. Or Uatu the Guardian. Again.
Yes.
That's right. We forgot that you are the one cataloging the Amalgam worlds. And who's on your shirt today? I see it's Galactus.
I have Galactus and Silver Surfer, and it is like
it's a tiki
version.
Nice.
But what's cool is that the wood kind of looks like a skull, and it's kind
Yes.
of like Galactiac.
It is. That's what I was like. Did he find a sweatshirt with the character that we're talking about today? That would be amazing. But
That would
you
be.
probably would have to make it yourself, I suspect.
Yeah.
I have a shirt somewhere that has Silver Surfer on it, and it says, I love surfer boys. I think I have to dig that out. I don't know where that is.
I don't remember seeing that. I think that's been
that
gone
at
for a
Comic-Con,
while.
like many years ago. And maybe
But
at
Ethan,
this
welcome
new-
back.
Yes.
We're so glad to
Yes.
have you. We've been
And
trying
before
for a
we-
while to schedule
Yes.
it, so.
Before we begin our trip into the unknown, ooh, Guido, what's new in our little section of the multiverse?
Before we are challenged by the unknown, or we challenge it, I guess, is the way it's supposed to work. And so while this episode is coming out right when Fantastic Four released, there are no spoilers for Fantastic Four. None of the three of us have seen it, so there can't be spoilers. So if you're listening to this after the movie has come out, which you would be because this episode's coming out after the movie came out, don't worry, there's no spoilers here for Fantastic Four. But is everyone excited for Fantastic Four?
Big time.
Yes.
Great. Well, do listen.
That didn't sound it, but sure.
To our last episode was on Superman Silver Surfer, which is a great companion because since this month, July 2025, has these dueling crossover kind of Marvel DC movies, we keep digging into Marvel and DC a bit this month, which is what brings us to today. But before we get into today, an update on my overall life grail quest of every X-Men ever. I'm down to 17 books that I need. That's it.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thanks. We stopped at a yard sale from Marino's Collectibles in Coxsackie, New York, and got one more just this weekend. And so I'm down to 17 books.
The
I can't
single
believe it
digit books,
either.
we'll say, weren't out on the table where at the yard sale. They weren't there, but he had lots of other comics. Marino's Collectibles had lots of other comics there. And then he was like, are you guys real collectors? And it was like, yes. He was like, I got the good books in the back.
I know.
Nice.
Yeah. But don't worry, because my life doesn't need to come to an end when I finish this Grail quest. I did just identify what my next big quest is going to be.
And
But
what is that quest?
first I have to finish X-Men. I decided I'm actually pretty deep into Wonder Woman. I have everything post-crisis on, and so it's just pre-crisis. But that's a big feat. I'm gonna need to win the lottery at some point to really go there. Since she started in the 1940s, it's a little different than the X-Men in the 1960s.
But are you counting her first appearance, or you're just going to count when it's Wonder Woman in the title?
Into title, but that still is the 40s. So, and her early books are pretty affordable. They're just hard to find. Obviously, her number one is astronomical, even more than X-Men. But beyond that, they're pretty reasonable, relatively speaking. So anyway, I think Wonder Woman will be next because I also suspect that I will love the Wonder Woman in the new James Gunn DC universe because I'm loving everything as it is already. I think that will be a great version of her when we finally see her, which I'm hoping is sooner rather than later.
And
Agreed.
if you are joining us for the first time in Guido's Grail Quest aka the Dear Watchers podcast. We have 3 parts of our journey through the multiverse today: origins of the story, exploring multiversity, and pondering possibility. So thanks for coming along.
Yes, and remember, leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening, and you can find all of our past episodes, including Ethan's 11 or 10 other appearances, at dearwatchers.com. Just click episodes and you can search through them.
And with that, welcome to episode 165, and let's check out what's happening in the Omniverse with our travels today's alternate universe. And today we are answering the fantastic question.
That's a little basic for you.
I know.
I know. You weren't trying this
fantastic fours. Today we are traveling in challenging the unknown. No, that's too on the nose. Well, anyway, the question is, what if the Fantastic Four returned from their travels without superpowers, only to battle an amalgam of Galactus and Brainiac?
What if, indeed? What a question. This is, of course, the Amalgam Universe. It's part of why Ethan's here, though we love to have him anyway, but it's hard to cover Amalgam without Ethan of Make Mine Amalgam. So the Amalgam Universe we have covered. It's, of course, in Marvel nomenclature, Earth 962 or 9602. We've covered it a few times, not as many as you'd think. We're sort of dulling it out a little sparingly. We will continue to cover Amalgam, but our first coverage was Spider-Boy back on episode 36. We covered Doctor Strange Fate on 44, Speed Demon on 55, Dark Claw on 73, Amazon on 130, and Iron Lantern on 141. And you know what? Our episodes about those are evergreen. So go listen to them for the first time or listen again. We give a lot of backstory. We're not going to do a deep dive here, though we will talk about the future of Amalgam, but go get the backstory of Amalgam in some of those episodes.
I think we also did one.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. We also did one with the animated series Dark Claw.
Yes. We did. That's true. Yeah, we covered Dark Claw after Kevin Conroy passed away. We got to talk about
and
Dark
in fact,
Claw.
Yesterday, Guido, when we were at the yard sale, the person you bought the X-Men comic from brought up Dark Claw. I would imagine, Ethan, Dark Claw is probably the Amalgam character that most people know. What do you think?
Well, he combines the 2 most popular, right?
Yeah, true. If people do know Amalgam surface level, I say that lovingly, that we don't gatekeep here. But funnily enough, no, I was talking comics with somebody couple of years ago, and they said the most obscure character they knew, and they said, oh well, it's this guy named Dark Claw, and he's this mix of Wolverine and Batman. I said, oh my gosh, I'm all in with this conversation.
That's funny. Yeah, he probably is.
Yeah, the characters they're not mentioning probably are the challengers of the Fantastic. That's probably not one of the best known.
Well, what's funny is I bet the challengers of the Fantastic are better known than the challengers of the unknown.
Big time.
That's the funny part about this, what we're covering today.
When I first read this book years ago, because I've read it a couple times now, but when I first read this, that's how I discovered the challengers of the unknown.
Right. This is your gateway.
Yeah.
Well, and I read it, and I didn't even discover the challengers of the unknown. I don't even think I took that extra leap to who are they amalgamated with in this? But anyway, we do have 2 groups today, Fantastic Four, but we've talked about them.
We've talked Fantastic Four. We've talked about our backgrounds with Amalgam.
Yes. So let us talk about our backgrounds with the challengers of the unknown.
How much time you got?
I have all 4 of their faces tattooed on my body.
Do you think anyone
named my
in the world
child
has the
after Red.
Tattoo? I bet someone does. But...
I named my famous speedster after Ace.
Oh, there you go.
No, I didn't.
It wasn't? No. Just a coincidence.
I just wanted to throw that in there.
Well, Ethan, you just mentioned that after reading Challengers of the Fantastic, you did familiarize yourself with Challengers of the Unknown. So what is your background with this semi-forgotten, let's say, DC team?
My familiarity is that I think it's cool that Jack Kirby kind of did an adventure team twice, and one of them stuck.
Uh-huh.
And so then they honored that with this amalgam.
Mm-hmm.
But I am assuming the amalgam was your first introduction to the team.
Oh,
also,
absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So same for all of us. I
Yeah.
suspect for everyone out there, you haven't heard of Challengers of the Unknown.
Yeah, and
No,
I was a rabid DC Who's Who reader growing up, so I knew some of the teams like the Doom Patrol without actually ever reading their comics. But I think that's because if you just look at a picture of the Doom Patrol, like Negative Man, Robot Man, like they stand out. Like you remember them without even reading their comics. And here it's like 4 to 5 people wearing pink jumpsuits. They're all white. They all kind of look the same. Like, this is not, when you're just looking at that page in DC Who's Who, it's not like going to
Doesn't pop out.
Sticking in your mind years later.
Yeah. Yeah, I suspect I was definitely the same. Challengers of the Fantastic being my entry point. And then I also probably never followed up. They haven't had, we're going to go through their publication history. They haven't had a lot. I did read their title over the last year, and I'll mention it briefly in our history. But outside of that, I really could not have told you anything about them. Probably until I read that miniseries that started at the end of last year. I probably couldn't have told you anything about them. So,
well,
yeah.
And it seems people don't even know who created them necessarily. So let's jump in there with origins of the story.
Right now, on this very show, you're going to get the answer to all your questions. Our amazing story begins a few years ago.
So we'll do a little background before we dig into the issue we covered here. So on the origin of this story, Challengers of the Unknown, various sources, this is of course the era we've covered a lot when DC and Marvel were not crediting creators, and various sources will credit the sole creator as Jack Kirby, but it might be a co-creator with writer Dave Wood, or maybe even Joe Simon, Kirby's partner. So really interesting, and it just shows how these characters did not take off, because if they had taken off, I think we would have known, because people would have claimed that right. But no one was stepping forward to sue for the rights to Challengers of the Unknown at any point. So it is a bit of a mystery who created it with Kirby, if anyone. And we will talk about that original series from 1957 in just a moment. Kirby moved on really quickly after writing a few issues of it, with co-creator Bob Brown, who created Beast Boy and Talia al Ghul, succeeding him. And it lasted through issue 77, but it was an anthology book anyway, so they were not always the focal point. And in addition to the 4 core members, there were introduced a Red Ryan's brother when he was temporarily killed for a bit, and then there were also 2 women added to the group, an occultist, Karina Stark, and a tech whiz, June Robbins, who was more of an unofficial 5th member in that original run.
And then they used their money from these adventures to build their headquarters, Challengers Mountain, in the Colorado Rockies. You can actually see, speaking of DC Who's Who, a diagram of it in DC Who's Who. And I love that despite the fact that they built this entire headquarters out of a mountain, there's actually still only 2 bedrooms. So the members still have to share bedrooms. June does get her own room, but the other guys are sharing rooms. So
wow. Well, maybe whoever designed Challengers Mountain was queer coding them a little bit.
Yeah,
there.
exactly. And I also want to highlight some of their villains. So like many heroes from this era, they fight a lot of Nazis. There's lots of Nazis in there. Also a fair share of Egyptian and Eastern inspired villains, which probably wouldn't necessarily be passing muster today, let's say. But there are some other fun ones. So there's Villo, who's just described as the world's vilest villain.
Ooh,
and then
that's one to look into.
Yeah, true to DC, there's lots of Misters. So there's Mr. Dimension, who's a vagrant who stole a dimensional weapon from a time ship. Mr. Merlin, an alchemist who unleashes a plague of zombies. And probably my most favorite of all, Mr. Tic-Tac-Toe, a criminal who uses traps with a tic-tac-toe motif.
Wow. Gosh, Ethan, these are going to be some characters to find some Hasbro or McFarlane, or actually Mattel has the future DC license for figures. See if you can get some of these figures made.
Hopefully. I'm getting major Hanna-Barbera vibes from some
Yes, they
Yeah.
are. They do sound like that gang.
And their most famous villain, probably the only one maybe any of you listening or you on this podcast have heard of, is Multi-Man. So he's a supervillain who gains a different form every time he dies. So he get like underwater powers, then he dies and he becomes like a psychic, then he becomes super strong. I think he's still around to this day. He was also the leader of their enemy group, and this is a very awkward name, League of Challenger Haters.
I don't know if it's awkward. It's really just on the nose, right?
It's very
It would
on the
be like
nose.
if instead of Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, it was like Brotherhood of X-Men Hating Mutants. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Exactly.
Superman Revenge Squad.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
Wow.
aside from this main group, which we're going to talk about, so they had brief appearances also in Elseworld miniseries Conjurers, set in an alternate DCU where magic is part of the mainstream society. Then they are also part of DC's Weirdoverse. Do you know this, Ethan? The Weirdoverse? This was like a series of 4 different titles about like occult-themed books in
It's
the
not
later
ringing
90s.
any bells.
It's interesting
But-
they always put them alongside magic, including in this first issue we're going to talk about in just a moment.
That's true.
So, yeah.
Well, in this Weirdoverse series, that was just 18 books. And this is a new team. They diversified the group. So there's a Japanese-American character, an African-American character. They're all still survivors of a plane crash. And the writer, Stephen Grant, of this actually said this was conceived as the basis for a TV series, which is very interesting because in 96, you weren't thinking too many. It was like The Flash with John Wesley Shipp. Like, that was like it. And I guess Lois
Well,
and
probably
Clark.
because they don't have superpowers, there weren't the budgetary
That's
constraints that kept a lot of comic books from being adapted.
And
So-
they're exploring the occult, so it's got that kind of X-Files
X-Files.
thing, I guess. And Stephen Grant actually says trying to pitch a concept built around 4 aging white guys to a TV market focused on youth audience and pushing a veneer of multiculturalism would have been flat out stupid, a waste of everyone's time and money. So they were a little kind of ahead of the curve in actually diversifying this team in the 90s there. And they're actually being chased by the last survivor of this plane crash. And after that comic series was canceled, the characters actually did not appear in any comics until 2011's New 52 event. And then they kind of reverted back to the original version of the team.
There was a 2004 Howard Chaykin group that this time they survived a terrorist attack. Of course, Howard Chaykin dealing with current event politics in 2004. That was a 6-issue miniseries. And then just last year, as I mentioned, they're back for a DC All-In era 5-issue miniseries that tied really into the core main universe. I'm not even going to spoil it for people who haven't read it because it got me a little more interested in them. And I'll just say it has to do with, in DC All-In, obviously the big thing, for those who haven't read an issue that's a year and a half old, is Darkseid dies. And the release of Omega energy dissipating in the universe ties into the Challengers and their relationship to death. So it's a pretty cool way to explore their origin and how it could relate to the universe. So I enjoyed that 5-issue series. But why don't we go into their original origin and see what we thought about it?
Real
Yes.
quick, there actually is another one from the era where they did all these like Marvel pastiche books, like with Damage and Sideways and all that. It was called New Challengers.
Oh.
Oh.
And
Is that the one Robin was in?
I don't think Robin was in it, but
Oh,
there
'cause
was
we-
a guy from another Kirby book from first issue special called Dingbats of Danger Street. And he was grown up, and he was a member of the team.
Oh,
Wow.
fun.
I just figured with that Kirby connection, we had to include that one.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
one.
it
We had
seems like
seen
a
that the
group-
team name had been used by a few other
other
teams
ones.
over
I guess
time.
it's just like at one point they were like, "We own this trademark, so let's put whoever
do
into
something with it."
Nobody knows who they actually are. But anyway, let's go to their beginning. This is Showcase, Volume 1, issue number 6 from DC Comics, February 1957, and the story is called The Secret of the Sorcerer's Box.
And that writer maybe was Dave Wood. Who knows? Whoever it was, they wrote a lot of words on those panels, though. I'll tell you that. The penciler was Jack Kirby. The inker was Roz Kirby with Marvin Stein. And the editor was Jack Schiff. And this is their origin and first appearance. And a real quick summary, basically, four characters are considered heroes in their fields of it's boxing, science, ace pilot, and what's the fourth one? Diving? Is he just diving?
Well, the diving is also, I think, is also the scientist as well. I think that the other guy is like, he's an acrobat. Sorry.
Oh, great. He's an acrobat. So they're all on a plane. The plane crashes, and they mysteriously all are alive, unscathed, with the most important point seeming to be that their watch still works after the plane crash. Not that they're alive, but that their watch still works. And they decide that because they've skirted death, they are going to now challenge the unknown, and that's their mission. Their first mission in that is encountering a sorcerer who has a box, and he wants these four people who love to skirt danger to go into the four compartments of the box to retrieve a treasure. It's a very strange setup, but that is the kickoff to their origin. Who wants to start with just what you thought of reading this? How did you enjoy it?
I'm going to go back to the Hanna-Barbera comparison.
Yeah.
It felt very Hanna-Barbera. Kirby certainly loves to use Merlin in his stuff, because also when we talked about Etrigan, Merlin was a part of that as well.
And this guy's name it's a little Merlin-esque. It's
Morlin.
Morlin.
More lion. More like it might as well have just been Morlin Jr.
Well, and what's funny is I said before one of their villains was Mr. Merlin. That's Murlin. So there's lots of villains with the Merlin aspect there.
For whatever reason.
Something else I noticed was Rocky. He had a phrase. He said, "Shades of Uncle Zeke's chicken roost," in an exclamation. And while it was probably intended to be more of like, "Holy cats, Batman," it came out as "My sweet Aunt Petunia."
It is very Aunt Petunia. Yeah, clearly Jack had an influence on that line, I suspect, if not all of them. Yeah.
Well, as you kind of hinted at too, Guido, earlier on, there's a lot. It's very lengthy. There's lots of words, and it's set up episodically, so it's kind of like a Pandora's box. And there's four characters, and there's four compartments, and each time they open it, there's a new challenge. So there's a giant rock creature. There is a ice beam or something. There's a living sun that's sapping people's energy, and then like the last box is really like the villain himself. Right? What was that?
Oh, isn't there a whirlwind at some point?
Well,
there's like a cocoon.
Oh yes, there's like a cocoon. Yeah,
there's a lot going on, and it's very confusing.
Cocoon, when we get to a later segment, I have an interesting point about the cocoon that it reminded me of.
But it does feel very super repetitive reading it, because every one is like, okay, now there's a new thing that they have to battle, and because they don't also have powers, there's no like big little trick that comes out of it.
Yeah, the story itself is kind of ridiculous. I do appreciate the end. There's kind of the twist at the end, which...
Well, irony there, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because the sorcerer retrieved the Ring of Immortality from the fourth part of the box by virtue of the challengers going in, but then he misread the inscription and in fact, the ring led to his destruction. It's being inside the box that keeps you immortal. So he just crashes and dies at the end. And that was kind of funny and unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
Took a long time to get there, but it was cute. But what do you think about just their the origin overall, like the setup? Like, I think it's strange, frankly. I think it's, I don't get what whoever wrote this is trying to do. I guess they're trying to do a hero team that's human, but it is a little mysterious. Like, are we supposed to understand that there is something special about them in their skirting of death? Like, it's a little confusing and frankly bland to me.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I agree. I think it is kind of bland. Maybe down the line they get into it, but considering it was like the Silver Age, they kind of probably hit the same notes each issue.
Yeah, I'm sure. I am sure.
And it feels like you'd have to be constantly reminded of their origin, like with Spider-Man or someone like that, Fantastic Four, let's say. Like, they just, we all know their origin, but they just have their powers now, so it doesn't really matter. But here you'd kind of have to constantly be reminded of, like, there was that one time that we almost died.
In part because it has nothing
we're living
to do
on the
with
edge.
It doesn't inform who they are as characters or how they function as a team. Like, none of that is informed. Like, I guess literally the only thing we're supposed to take from their origin is that it makes them comfortable with taking risks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not enough to sustain you. So I think that's probably why you need the constant reminder, and no one can remember them or the fact that they exist.
True.
They're unknown.
Yeah, exactly. They are.
They haven't yet beaten that issue of being unknown.
It's a challenge for them.
They're challenging it, though. No, it screams out for some kind of, if not like a formal power, like something where maybe almost like a long shot, like they have incredible luck, like, or something like that, or maybe they have multiple lives kind of going to the multi-man who's like their main villain in that way, like something where even if they're not like able to stretch their limbs and turn into a flaming torch, like they still have something that at least hints at the fact that they are able to survive or live on the edge or whatever it is.
That's why the recent series was cool to me. I only read it because I liked the writer, Christopher Cantwell, and I'm liking all the DC All-In stuff. But it was neat to like take this team's origin, which is so bland and I'm sure underutilized over the years, and to kind of ask this question. Well, if Darkseid, who is sort of the agent of death in the universe, like represents the energy of death in the universe, is suddenly gone, like how's that gonna affect them? And again, there's this mystery over like what's going on with them and this energy that dissipated into the universe. So I like someone trying to use this question of like what is the point of them, to tell a story with them, but I don't know how often that's been done.
Yeah, and I think it also shows, and I know kind of Stan can get a bad rap, Stan Lee can get a bad rap as to like, well, how much work did he do? How much work did Kirby do? But I think when you read this and then read the Fantastic Four and you see the common denominator of Kirby in like a group of four that's in outer space, you can see what Stan lent to it, or Kirby brought to it, because when you're reading these, and I don't know if this was the same for you, Ethan, but like I had a very hard time just in terms of their voices being able to tell like which one's Rocky, which one's Red. Like they all just kind of sound the same, and like you would never say that about Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm.
Oh, same. And actually it comes down to me learning about them through the Amalgam, that I was thinking, oh, Rocky's like Ben because his name's Rocky. Like,
right. You were mapping them onto their characters. That makes sense.
Well, let us talk then about the Amalgam. It's time to explore some multiversity.
I am your guide through these vast new realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
And this is Challengers of the Fantastic from Amalgam Comics, aka DC and Marvel combined. Go back and listen to our other episodes to find out the history from June 1997.
It's written by Carl Cassell. It's penciled by Tom Grummett, inked by Alve, colored by Joe Rosas and Digital Chameleon, lettered by Richard Starkings and Comicraft, and edited by Tom Brevoort and Glenn Greenberg. So, Challengers of the Fantastic. All right, so let's establish some of the mapping. So we have the 4 challengers who are now instead the 4 characters we know as Sue, Reed, Johnny, and Ben.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the least exciting part of the issue, because then we've got some cool villains.
Yes.
So I guess let's start with their origin before we get to the villains and the story. I guess let's start with their origin. It's the same as the Challengers of the Unknown, but with the characters we know as the Fantastic Four. They come back from their trip, and they don't have any superpowers, but they can't believe that they've avoided death. And so they decide they're going to challenge the Fantastic instead of challenge the Unknown. So it's basically just Challengers of the Unknown mapped onto these 4, right? Am I missing anything?
Victor Von Doom is the reason for the crash.
Right. He sent them up, and then he intentionally sabotaged their crash because he was jealous of the attention they were going to get upon return from their space exploration. Yeah. So they
right
do,
away, I think even if the book stopped there, those changes are already an improvement on the original, because the characters are so much better defined, and having the Doom character be like the one that's sabotaging the plane and yet they still survived gives it a bit more of an arc, rather than it was just another accident.
Yeah. And they work for Project Cadmus, which is the DC organization, which is why
also
we actually
mentioned in Spider-Boy too.
Right. So
Yes.
why we actually see them in Spider-Boy. They're one of the few Amalgam characters to get multiple appearances, which is an interesting choice for them. So Ethan, why don't you talk us through that before we get again more into the story and the villains?
Yeah, so my notes for Spider-Boy, the Challengers only really cameo on probably the first third, there we go, of the of the Spider-Boy book. Cadmus Labs, like we said. We see Spider-Boy fighting Bizarnage, who we established was Carnage and Bizarro, and like I said with the Cocoon, he possesses Johnny Storm temporarily. And so that kind of reminded me of the Cocoon from Showcase 6. That's probably me overthinking, but I still thought it was worth mentioning. We learned that Johnny actually survives this because of the miniature Johnny Stormtrooper, which is going to be important later in this issue.
Yeah,
the
so
Stormtrooper
weird,
clone. Yeah. Ben Grimm confronts Dabney Donovan, who's another scientist, and this is when we get some strange reveals through inner monologues and such, which initially I thought we didn't get any closure on, but they actually fulfill some closure in some dialogue with Challengers of the Fantastic, which I thought was interesting. We learned that Sue Storm is an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And while we don't see her in the Bruce Wayne Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. book, we do learn some information through the mock letters to the editor about how, maybe she can join now that Bruce Wayne is incapacitated, because they make a comment about, he got injured in a fight against the Banisher, which is Punisher and Bane, which is a character that does not actually exist in Amalgam. It's just a name drop because they
just
wanted
mentioned.
to come up with Banisher. Punisher is actually mixed with Steve Trevor, and Bane is actually mixed with Nuke from Daredevil, and it's really just a Hydra version of Bane, who also is in Bruce Wayne, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. So this is when the double dipping with Amalgam gets really out of hand.
Well, that's what's so interesting about, because I think we've established that on other occasions too, the way like the books sort of stayed in their own lane, and so they'd pull characters and, as you said, double dip. But for some reason, the Challengers of the Fantastic got a little bit of an arc and got a little more world building than some of the other characters, and I don't know why that is, that they get to appearances and get some of these tie-ins and stuff.
Oh yeah, and then in this mock letters page, they even mentioned that Carl Kessel wanted to do a one-shot of the Challengers, and I thought that was interesting. This is in the mock letters page from Spider-Boy, because Spider-Boy was from '96, and this is from the 1997 batch.
Right, the second
and so
wave. Yeah.
I'm wondering if it was intentional or not, a peek into what we were going to get, because a lot of the mock letters to the editor is kind of like, oh, they'll amalgamate writer and artist names. They'll do
fake names.
Yeah, they'll do fake names. And so this was like the only real one that I've seen.
Yeah, maybe the idea had been batted around for the first wave and they couldn't get it together or decided to cut it, and so then maybe they knew they were going to do a second wave, or maybe they were hopeful and that's why they dropped the mention. And that is really interesting. I hadn't revisited the Spider-Boy letters page in preparation for this.
Yeah, I visited the Spider-Boy and the Challengers one just to milk out more information that I could, if there was anything, because sometimes they throw in little nuggets in there.
Well, for that reason, I read the trading cards for today, because they always put a lot more. And they don't add anything to Challengers of the Fantastic, but they do add, there's an entire card for Dr. Doomsday.
Yes.
So Dr. Doomsday makes barely a cameo appearance in this and sets up an issue that, of course, doesn't exist, that would follow, where we find out that Dr. Doom has amalgamated with Doomsday, and we learn on the trading card that he was doing some genetic testing on the alien of Doomsday, and an explosion in the lab leads to Victor Von Doom amalgamating with Doomsday, and he has Doomsday's powers where every time he gets killed, he gets resurrected stronger. So that's a fun amalgamation just for the name alone. Makes a lot of sense. Feels like a pun, Rob.
Oh, yes. It's absolutely one of those things where they came up with the name first, and then they drew it, and they just ran with it.
Yeah. Well, that's why I love, like, the Banisher, like, is actually, like, a great name, and two characters that go together probably better than the ones that they actually combine with in the actual issues.
Yes, true.
I wanted to see the real Banisher on the page.
I'm trying to picture that, like, just the Bane mask with the Punisher
with the skull.
Shirt.
Yeah, they kind of have that skull motif.
It's a cool idea. Like, how about like Punisher with his T-shirt, and he does still have the Venom. He'll use the Venom, but he also, like, I don't know. Is it Bane with guns?
Yeah,
and a Punisher shirt?
He needs a gun, but maybe the gun shoots Venom. Who knows?
Yeah, he doesn't need real guns.
Crazy,
he's got these guns.
All right, so back to Challenges of the
Anyway,
Fantastic. I think
issue.
if ever we need proof that the Challenges of the Fantastic were almost as forgettable as Challenges of the Unknown, it's this conversation. So back to them. In this story, their big arch nemesis that they're about to fight is Galactiac, which does not roll off the tongue, but is a really fun amalgamation in spite of being a very awkward name, because, as mentioned earlier, it is Galactus and Brainiac.
Now that I think about it, Brainiactus probably would have worked better.
Brainiactus. Ooh, yeah. I think that is better. Galactiac, Brainiac.
Galactiac sounds like, I don't know what it sounds like.
It sounds like...
Ask your doctor if Galactiac is right.
Yeah,
Galactiac,
don't talk back.
Or like an Atari video game from 1982. I'm going to go play Galactiac.
And his design, while it's cool, I mean, he's basically Galactus, but with Brainiac's face. Like there's not. It's about 80% Galactus.
Oh yeah,
20%
90%
Brainiac,
Galactus.
90% Galactus.
Even what's the only interesting thing, because he uses his equipment like Galactus does. He's coming to implant it on the Earth. The one fun twist in that is that he's not harvesting the Earth's energy and killing it. He shrinks a part of the planet and puts it in a bottle, which is of course what Brainiac does. So I like that little twist to Galactus, that his world impending doom is much more amusing than I'm just going to harvest the Earth and you're all going to die.
Yeah.
But he does have a herald.
Yes. And this is the Silver Racer. So it's the Silver Surfer, but with a cape, and he is on skis. Now, I'm not super familiar with the racer part, so can you guys fill me in?
Black Racer is one of the new gods.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
which is another Kirby creation.
I also added my own fake amalgam footnote in my notes. I said that the Silver Racer is gender swapped, and her name is Shala Barda in Challengers of the Fantastic Initial Strides, in theaters soon.
And
That does
I
fit.
just I think a little bit of it. I don't know, nothing against skiing, but like I think the fact that he also not only has the skis on his feet but also has to hold the ski
Has the poles.
It just doesn't read as cool as a surfboard. Like a surfboard, I don't know. It's just like, okay, that's cool, but like I don't know, skis, and he's got the I don't know. It doesn't
It is
quite
absurd.
look as the same.
Even in
He
the
can use
end,
the poles as swords.
He
yes,
could use the
they
poles
should
as
be
swords,
weapons,
yes.
but
yeah.
in the end, the final splash page is the tease for the fake next issue, where Dr. Doomsday has, I guess, potentially killed or defeated the Silver Racer and is now on the skis, and even he has the poles. I love that.
Yes, he still does not look as intimidating as with holding the ski poles.
No, not at all.
And we do get a few moments in this issue too with with our challengers also having some kind of at times approximations of the Fantastic Four's powers a bit. So Johnny has a flamethrower for a lot of it. The coolest one is that Reed gets Dr. Octopus's, and this is kind of set up also in the Spider-Boy issue, where we see Dr. Octopus as kind of like a Q character for Cadmus, and when he's like knocked out or defeated, like now Reed has the octopus arms, which kind of approximate his stretching ability.
Arms. Yeah, I agree. And they treat Sue horribly, which is also similar to her power.
She doesn't really have.
Also gets,
yeah.
I believe Sue also gets an invisibility belt that is
She
mentioned
does.
once. It's
Yes,
mentioned once and not really used.
It's mentioned once,
should
it
use
saves
it
her
just
once,
so that
and then
they-
immediately stops working as after that one use. That is
She should use it to avoid the comments on her hair that keep coming up, because she's cut her hair and the team is making fun of her for cutting her hair. And I don't understand the point of that whole sequence. I do like, though, that Reed says that her shorter hair is more practical for the work she does. So
Yes.
that's fun.
That's true.
That was like the only good comment, and then like move on.
And then we get the Thing, and then the Ben character does become like the Thing, but he's got 4 arms. That was a little
and he's
lost on me. Why
transformed.
does he have the 4 arms?
Because comics. I honestly, I don't think there was any real reason, but I like how. Okay, so they call him the ever-loving blue-eyed Thing in Fantastic Four. So I don't think they called him this, but I like to refer to him as the ever-loving 4-armed Thing. Just works.
That does work.
Yeah.
I wonder, maybe Brainiac has some like 4-armed minions that they were pulling from, because it's Galactiac that transforms him into his minion, and he has the 4 arms and the rocky skin. So I'm assuming they were pushing the Thing with a DC character that is unrecognizable to us.
Maybe.
So yeah, it it's not a strong issue, I'd say. It's not a strong story. This one, I think the fun for this issue comes out of just how many amalgamations there are, how many pieces they're trying to link up. I think that part is fun.
You mentioned June Robbins. She's name dropped mixed with Alicia Masters.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Anuatu the Guardian shows up too.
Yeah. Which
So
he mentions his temporary loss of sanity, which I believe, again, this is probably me projecting sense into Amalgam, but again, since Speed Demon came out in 1996, could that have been a thread?
Right. I was thinking it was a reference to something that happened previously, and then because I like that he refers to getting cured by using the Mother Cube, which is of course the Mother Box combined with the Cosmic Cube. So yeah, this one is, again, it's full of like Easter egg references. Johnny's even talking about his relationship with the Inhuman Crystal, but they're all being amalgamated with like different new gods and characters. So
To be the people.
Yeah.
Oh, I just did some quick internet research here so we can inform the readers. There is a character called Four-Armed Terror. He's actually a Jack Kirby creation, and he first appeared in one of our favorites, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, in 1971, and then does seem to be a reoccurring for villain for Superboy and Superman. So
a lot of these nods are to Kirby creations. Even
Kirby
the Unmen,
creations,
as
really.
Ethan just mentioned, is a Kirby creation. So clearly this is kind of a tribute issue, which might be why it sort of drags, because they're trying to fit a lot into it, and it's not so much about the story. It's more about all these little bits and Easter eggs.
Yeah. I wanted to see more Bronze Tiger. Who's basically he's T'Challa, but Bronze Tiger in name, and then including Gorilla City with the super apes was neat.
I know. There is like a whole Wakanda backstory referred to there that sadly didn't ever see the light of day in another issue, but could have been a lot of fun. So yeah, I don't feel the need to have read more Challenges of the Fantastic, but if there were more, maybe it would have been fleshed out in an interesting way. Anyone else with a thought about whether you wanted more Challenges of the Fantastic?
Only if it gives us Super Skrull Amazo amalgam. Even though Amazo and Super Adaptoid would probably be more appropriate, we need some form of Super Skrull in this universe.
I can totally see that. Yeah. I think that and to see more Dr. Doomsday too.
Yeah,
of
definitely Dr. Doomsday.
Because it also is just fun because just for folks who don't know, he's Doomsday but wearing the
green cloak and the silver
basically.
gloves. Yeah.
But it's fun to see like, oh, what would like a talking super smart Doomsday be? Is a fun idea unto itself.
And I always thought it was cool. Again, this is probably a coincidence, but you know, in the Rise of the Silver Surfer, the second Fantastic Four movie, Doom gets the board.
I don't remember that.
So it's like in the middle of the movie, he gets the surfboard. And that's what that scene always reminds me of. Getting the skis. And
when he's the Silver Racer, yeah.
Again, probably a coincidence, but that's
I'm sure.
Well, let us wrap up then by pondering some possibilities.
Will the future you describe be averted?
So, Guido, what are we talking about for our pondering possibilities?
Well, you and I, just last episode, talked about the upcoming crossovers with Marvel DC, but we want to hear from Ethan about these because we have our Deadpool Batman issue on newsstands in just a few months from when we're recording this. And not only does it have Deadpool Batman, but as we talked about, it has Daredevil Green Arrow, Jeff Landshark Crypto, Captain America Wonder Woman, and only recently announced some variant covers that tell other pairings, though with no stories. So we get Catwoman Magic, and we get Elektra Batgirl. So a few cool pairings, a few neat stories in there, hopefully. So Ethan, what do you think about these announcements? And do you think this is step one toward a new Amalgam?
I definitely have high hopes. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic about Amalgam, though. I think Amalgam would be quite a surprise, but as of now, I'm just excited to see what Grant Morrison does with Deadpool. Because I don't think they've done anything with Deadpool yet.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And if this leads us down a path to more Amalgam, do you want a continuation of old Amalgam? Do you want brand new amalgamations? What do you want to see? You want both. You want it all.
Yes, I want it all to an extent. Like, you can get rid of Trevor Castle, but like, if you're gonna do Dark Claw, you gotta continue what we had with Dark Claw. But what we also need is Dak and Wayne, like Damien and Dakin. We need,
oh my gosh, that is a good one. Ooh.
I've been thinking about Cassandra Kinney forever. Cassandra Cain and Laura Kinney.
Oh, these are good ones that you've been thinking about.
Somebody said something about like the older Wolverine being mixed with somebody, but I can't remember. It wasn't Old Man. It was something else, but I can't remember.
Who would your, since he didn't exist when the first Amalgam came out, who would your Miles Morales be mixed with?
Miles Morales is mixed with John Kent.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is what's cool about this is these legacy characters didn't exist in the 90s. There really
legacy characters.
Yeah.
They have so much that they can do with Green Lantern and Flash alone. Because there's so many Iron Man. I mean, I think I was talking about this when Ironheart came out. I was like, Joe Mullen and Riri Williams.
Yep.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And they are roughly analogous in some ways. So amalgamating them could be really cool, but they bring different things. Like Miles and John is a great one. Oh yeah, this is fun.
We need some more speed demons. There's like so many Flashes and so many
Ghost Riders at this point.
Ghost Riders that haven't been done yet.
Yeah.
The list goes on.
Yeah. Wow.
And so, I'm sure we've talked about this on maybe past issues and past episodes, but now that we're getting these crossover books, like what do you think, Ethan or Guido? Like what do you think the barrier would be to doing an Amalgam book? Like if they've already done the hard work of coming together to do these crossovers and we know how contentious that could be, like why not take the extra step and do an Amalgam book?
My joke answer is because Jeff and Crypto would be a godless abomination, but also could be adorable. But I don't know. Maybe it's because they can't decide if they want to completely reboot it or if they want to do more Dark Claw. Because I feel like they would want to do more Dark Claw and Super Soldier because those seem more obvious. But then they probably look at stuff like Trevor Castle and think, oh yeah, why didn't we mix Punisher with Vigilante years ago?
Right. And it was probably because Vigilante was such a D-list character at that point. So yeah, the status quo has changed definitely, and people know more characters. I think, and this is sort of cynical, but I think probably a variable. The issue to me must be that even if these companies can get along finally and figure out how to co-publish and share legally, profit-wise, etc., when they create a character, who owns it? No one owns it. And I think that's probably part of the issue. Now, that's not an issue if we don't see these companies as IP farms, but we know that both companies are run as IP farms, and so I'm sure that's a huge factor. If they were just publishing comics, it wouldn't be a big issue because you invent a character and who cares who owns it? That's it. But now it might be an issue because they're going to invent characters and no one can license them. I mean, licensing them would be a nightmare. Certainly they'd never make it onto the screen. And I think that's what these companies exist for. sadly.
Yeah,
So
that's true. Because you could see easily Deadpool and Batman maybe not being live action, but being a jumping off point for an animated series or, a one-off movie based on the comic or something else. But I do think that becomes harder once it is an amalgam, because even like what platform do they air? I mean, I guess it's the same thing with a crossover there.
yeah, it is an issue with the crossover, but at least again a crossover. And they could do this with an amalgamated character, like just share the profits 50-50.
Yeah.
But so
For me,
I don't know.
For me, Amalgam would have to be animated. Because again, this is how my brain works. Like, I wouldn't want, because I would be stuck if they chose an actor. It would have to be somebody different, because otherwise I'd be like, oh, Chris Cornsweat as a super soldier. Like, that's how my brain would just keep working. And I would be stuck if they just picked one of them. It would just feel one-sided. But at the end of the day, that's also a me issue.
I love that. We need to use AI to like combine Chris Evans and David Cornsweat into a human being, and then
Or
that's
we
our cast.
stay away from AI because
That, yeah.
I think Rob and I, when we were talking Marvel DC some episodes ago, I'm sure you heard it because you're such a wonderful friend to the show, Ethan, but we had said that like Harley Quinn, that tone is the right template for a future amalgam or Marvel DC. Getting a little bit of the meta fourth wall breaking, but not overkill on it. Really good storytelling, really smart characters, but like an adult skew to the humor. I think that would be a really good template for this kind of show.
I agree. And there are so many exciting possibilities for crossovers that, yeah, I can name all the Speed Demons and Iron Lanterns I want to see, but I want to see some really cool crossovers. Like, I've seen people talk about how they want Static and Miles Morales. Yeah, I want that. But you know what I think would be cooler? Static and Kamala Khan. Because A, we get more Kamala. It's less obvious because, yes, Static was inspired by Spider-Man, but also both Kamala and Virgil are huge nerds.
Right.
And so they would really play off of each other character-wise, and I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah,
the
and
power
they're fans,
set would be really interesting.
They're fans in the universe, which is always a good protagonist character.
Maybe throw Gwenpool in the mix, too.
And before we wrap up completely, you mentioning David Cornsweat reminds me that you've been playing a mental game with amalgamations and actors that is so fun, and I want all of our listeners to do from this point on. So can you explain what they need to do and what they need to post and tag us in?
Yes, so this is what you gotta do. You gotta find an actor, and they can be in any Marvel property movie or any DC property movie. Like, they have to be in both. And for example, the woman who played Hawkgirl, Isabella, we're on a first name basis. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. She played Aranya in Madam Web. And now she also is Hawkgirl, more successfully, in Superman. Extra credit if you can come up with a cool name.
Yeah, that's true.
I call her Anya Hall or Shayera Corazon, aka
Those all sound like drag queen names too.
aka Hawk Spider, which if that doesn't take off, I will steal that name for a Weirdoverse character.
And the other one to give our listeners another example, you had mentioned Jared Leto, of course, being an example of Morbius and Joker. What name did you come up with for him?
Oof. Michael Napier. or Jack Morbius. I don't know. And maybe he just
Jorbius. Some horrible name. Make it a horrible name, since I'm not a fan of his depictions of these characters, so let's call it something.
But I don't
horrible.
know. Would it be a vampire Joker with I'm picturing a vampire Joker with like
a vampire clown is kind of
hair,
scary. Yeah.
The shaggy green hair. his famous catchphrase is "It's joking time."
You know, here's an obscure one I just thought of: the Penguin in Bullseye.
Oh my god, I think about that one on the daily. Like an unhealthy amount. I think about that one. It's ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, I forgot. That's right. Colin Farrell is Penguin. I forgot that. I knew he was Bullseye. I forgot that he was Penguin.
Oh man,
there are so many out there.
Daredevil Batman.
Yes,
Ben Affleck on the top
Yeah.
of that.
That is so.
Stick
Yeah.
and
So
Zod.
who is it?
Zod, Terrence Stamp in Superman 2
Oh.
is Stick in the Elektra movie.
Yeah.
Oh
that's
my
fun.
gosh.
Nice.
Ooh, didn't even think of that.
All right. So this is a gift you've given our listeners, Ethan. Listeners, we expect to see what you come up with, what some of the weirdest actor crossover amalgamations you can think of are.
And maybe who's ever cast in the Challengers of the Unknown movie will have also been in a Marvel movie. We'll never know.
Who knows?
That inevitable Challengers of the Unknown movie that we know is percolating in James Gunn's mind as we speak.
Oh, and here is the rule. Here's like the one caveat. It has to be a live action actor. It can't be like Kaylee Cuoco mixed with, I don't know, whoever voices Spiral in X-Men 97. And
Right.
I'm using that example because Spiral Harley is a character from Legends, something Darklaw, one of the Darklaw.
Yeah, so it has to be an actor you see playing the character. All right.
Yes,
so
has to be live action.
Let's get some fun ones up there. What a gift you've given us. And thank you for joining us on this episode. Ethan, how can people find you online? What's the best platform these days? I know you've made lots of moves and have lots of stuff to share. So
the absolute best place you can find me is Blue Sky. Make my amalgam on Blue Sky. You will only find me on Twitter because I am squatting on that handle. Nobody else will have Make Mine Amalgam. I will probably repost a few things just to keep it somewhat active, but it is locked, and basically the new name on there is find me on Blue Sky. You can find me on Instagram and Threads, make_mine_amalgam, but again, I am primarily on Blue Sky, making up kind of my own amalgams in my own universe of Kit Bashed Marvel Legends characters called the Fodderverse of my own original heroes and villains.
Yes, we love to see it. So people should go check it out. Until next time, when you make for a clean dozen appearances the next time you appear, thank you for joining us again, Ethan. And that is a wrap, dear watchers. Thank you for listening. I've been Guido.
And I've been Rob.
The reading list is in the show notes. Follow us online on Blue Sky, on Instagram, @DearWatchers.
And leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen. We'll be back soon with another trip through the multiverse.
In the words of Uatu, keep pondering the possibilities.